a really early age, my parents just noticed that I had an ear for music. I would just go up to the piano and start playing notes from my sisters practicing, and they noticed I had an ear and wanted to try me on violin. I heard originally about Belhaven from Masterworks Festival. Initially, I knew nothing about the school, but what attracted me to come here was Mr. Song, actually, because I took one lesson with him and it was just amazing. I knew that he believed in me and that he could take me far. And I also could tell that he had an ability to just pick out exactly what the students need to work on and kind of blossom them. And so that's what made me decide to come here. Honestly, the biggest thing is that he believed in me, and he just pushed me really hard every week. From the moment I got here, he would just push me farther and farther. No matter how hard I worked or how good it may have sounded, he demanded more because he knew I could do it. And so I would say basically his faith in his students and his encouragement and his work ethic with that, I would say. The atmosphere at Belhaven is very uplifting and encouraging in general. And just the teachers having a faith in God kind of refreshes your perspective, because as a musician, I'd say in the music world, it's really easy to feel small and feel like you're never adding up to, the best level, and it's really easy to feel small and kind of like it's never enough. But I would say the influence from Belhaven has kind of helped me to realize that whatever unique abilities and gifts God has given each person, like, they're enough because they're from God. And because God's perfect, his gifts are enough and his gifts are perfect. And so that's kind of infiltrated into my playing.
I began playing violin at the age of 6. When I was about 4, I heard the violin for the first time when my mother was playing a set of different instruments for my brother, because my parents wanted me and my siblings to all play instruments. And so he was picking one, and I heard the violin and I immediately fell in love. So I started telling people that I was going to be a VP when I grew up, meaning not vice president, but violin player. And so my mother decided that we should do something about it, I suppose, and we found a teacher, but the teacher wouldn't take me because they needed cello students in their program and not violin students. And so my mother sort of called this teacher once every month, and finally the teacher said, okay, well, he can come to this recital that we're having, and then you can make a decision. And so we got there, and it was completely packed out. We couldn't even get in the building. So we stood outside, and I stood up on a chair, and there was this one violinist that got up to play, and when he played, I was standing on the chair and I mimicked all of the movements that he was making while he was playing. And the teacher saw that and I was like, okay, I can see that he really loves this, and so I'll take him. So I heard about Belhaven through the Mississippi All-State String Orchestra, which is hosted here at the school, and I did that for a number of years. So I was pretty familiar with the school to begin with. And then it got closer to the time when you pick a college and towards the end of high school. So Belhaven was definitely on the radar because we knew lots of people here and knew Mr. Song, the violin teacher. Even after the first audition, I was sitting and talking with Mr. Song and Dr. Socks, the head of the music department. And it was, it's hard to describe, I suppose, but there was something really enticing about Belhaven all of a sudden, and it just felt like a very comfortable atmosphere, and I felt very at home here. And then that's something I didn't really, I didn't get that sense before. But, and around that time I had also been kind of going through some rough stuff in my violin education with some various teachers, and Mr. Song was so loving towards all of his students, and he really cares for us, and the sort of care and attention that he showed to me during some of the lessons I had with him, that was also very appealing. Like I said, Mr. Song really cares for all of his students. It's not just a normal teacher-student relationship, perhaps. He's very, he's a good mentor, and he's really been through life, and he's seen a lot of stuff. And so and being a strong Christian as well, he also, he gives us good advice. He's there for us when we're going through rough times, and just to talk and be a good figure for us. So he's really comfortable with people. He's not like this sort of austere sort of professorial figure. He's very sort of personable and easy to talk to, and so we all really love him.
Mentors like Mr. Song and Miss Nancy, they are so encouraging, and they always teach from the Christian perspective of you work hard, but also it's, God is going to be the one to bless your work. And so you don't have to just like continually drive yourself till you're ragged, but it's more of you are doing the best that you can with the gifts that God has given you. And so it's just like nurturing and growing in what you love doing. So the Christian influence here at Belhaven it has been so good as a performer, especially, and that, like, you know, it's so easy to doubt yourself and just look at what you're doing and be like, oh, you know, am I ever, you know, good enough? Am I going to reach some point that's like worthy enough to like perform on a stage or something? But it's like kind of the Christian perspective, as in like each one of God's children is special and they're unique. And like the gifts and talents that he's given us they're gifts and should be taken in that light. And it's encouraging to like realize that God has, you know, given us talents and gifts, that like things that we're passionate about, like God places that in us, and encouraging to just grow in that and not look at it as a hardship to have, but something that we can be joyful about.
I started playing violin when I was 4. I saw kids on Sesame Street playing it, and I told my parents I wanted to learn. So, a friend told me about the symphony orchestra. They let high schoolers play in it, so I joined the orchestra as a high schooler, and then I started taking lessons from Mr. Song, and the rest is history. Mr. Song basically built me back up from the ground. He took me apart and then built me even better. I love a lot of the professors here at Belhaven. I love Dr. Stephen Sachs, the chair of the music department. He's a great guy, as well as Dr. Sauerwein, the theory and composition professor. I've built a lot of great relationships with them over the years.